a single solitary cell. A predator in the making. It could develop into a lion powerful enough to bring down a half-ton buffalo. Or a house cat with hearing fine enough to pick up the footsteps of a mouse. This is the journey of two very different cats, from conception to birth. Remarkable animation and photography, scientifically accurate models, and 4D ultrasound scans unveiling a lion embryo for the first time, and images of a cat running and stretching before birth. From teeth strong enough to crack bricks, to the inner ear that gives a cat such extraordinary balance. Two very different animals starting life the same way, as cats in the womb. Over the next 110 days, this tiny fetus will develop into a lion cub, while this one will become a kitten in roughly half that time. The journey for both starts with an act of aggression. For all species of the cat family, mating is painful. It's not the biting that hurts her, it's the male's penis. It's barbed with more than 100 tiny hooks, each a fraction of an inch long. They're made of keratin, a tough fibrous protein normally found in nails and claws. As the male withdraws, the hooks scrape the walls of the vagina. The barbs have two functions. First, they help scratch out any competing sperm from previous matings. And second, they induce ovulation. In both lions and domestic cats, the pain of the scraping stimulates the female's brain. In response, it releases a specific hormone which triggers the eggs in her ovaries to begin maturing. She needs to mate at least 4 times before the concentration of the hormone is high enough for her eggs to fully ripen. The more she mates, the likelier she is to get pregnant. Despite the discomfort, most species of cats have an energetic sex life. During her receptive period, a lioness mates up to 100 times a day. But this female will only mate with males from her own pride. Lions are the only members of the cat family that are social. They live in groups of between 2 and 30 related females, and up to 6 males. In contrast, cats are loners and mate with random strangers, as many as possible. Each mating lasts just seconds. Afterwards, she rolls over, possibly to encourage the sperm to reach deep inside the uterus. For the sperm, it's both a race and a struggle for survival. First, they confront a wall of thick mucus. In everyday life, this protects the female from infection, but now it becomes an obstacle that only the strongest sperm can conquer. The mucus wall is patrolled by an army of white blood cells, primed to destroy any foreign bodies they encounter. It's an arduous journey that only 1% of the sperm will complete, and only a handful of those will succeed in fertilizing an egg. It's not just the female's body that causes problems for the sperm. In a house cat, a fifth of all sperm are simply not viable. And in lions, almost half the sperm are deformed. Some have multiple heads, others 2 tails. Many are incapable of swimming at all. Inside both the lioness and the cat, a few surviving sperm reach the womb about 30 minutes after mating. Here, they encounter another problem. Her eggs won't be fully mature for another 36 hours. Sensing this, the sperm swim into caves inside the walls of the uterus and bide their time. Finally, the eggs burst from the ovaries, and the sperm are recharged and ready. They've absorbed calcium from the uterine wall, which helps drive their tails faster. They detach and take up the chase. Speed is now important, as the newly matured eggs will only be viable for 24 hours. Finally, 2.5 days after its journey began, the first sperm reaches the egg and burrows into it. The egg membrane hardens, locking out any further intruders. The wombs of the cat and the lion no longer contain sperm and eggs, only embryos, animals in the making, just moments old. After 6 days, the embryos have become bundles of undifferentiated cells called blastocysts, still floating free in the womb. To develop further, they must each attach to the uterine wall. But it's not as easy as it sounds. If 2 embryos attach too close together, they would stunt each other's development. So the blastocysts release steroids that cause the muscles in the uterus to contract, pushing them forward to ensure they are evenly spaced. As soon as a blastocyst touches the wall, it latches on and releases an enzyme that will prevent others from attaching nearby. These microscopic bundles of cells contain the complete genetic blueprint of the animal they will eventually become. 7 cats and 3 lions. Their journey inside the womb has only just begun. "15 days after fertilization, a placenta starts to form inside the cat. It'll be the only physical link between the mother and her young. Through it, oxygen and nutrients are transferred to the embryo, and waste products are transferred to the mother. After just 20 days, the embryo is already folded into a C shape that will ultimately become the animal's head, middle, and tail. Each embryo is sealed in its own gestational sac. Even though they're in the same litter, these 7 cat embryos may in fact have several different fathers. The mother's promiscuous mating habits have allowed her to increase her odds. Up to 80% of cat litters have multiple fathers. That's not the case with lions. Here, a single male will generally monopolize the female during her fertile period to ensure that all the cubs are his. It seems that male dominance starts young. There's evidence that testosterone produced by male embryos diffuses through the amniotic fluid, as well as the mother's bloodstream, into the neighboring embryo. If a female is positioned between two males in the womb, some scientists believe she may display more aggressive behavior when she grows up. By day 21, the embryos are about the size of grapes. They have a rudimentary head and tail, but cat and lion are still indistinguishable. In fact, many mammal embryos look the same at this stage, including humans. The first organs begin to appear, the faint outlines of structures not yet fully formed. This dark swelling in the embryo's upper half is the beginning of a heart, as small as a pinhead. The pregnant cat undergoes an early ultrasound scan. This is the heartbeat of her 3-week-old embryo. It's beating 230 times per minute. The rate will slow as the embryo develops. By the time the cat is an adult, it'll beat at about half this speed, a steady 140 beats per minute. At 21 days, the cat prepares for motherhood. Already she's growing larger nipples. Sometimes she even experiences morning sickness due to the hormonal changes, just like human mothers. At 3 weeks, the lion shows no signs of being pregnant. In the wild, it's nearly impossible to study how the embryos develop. But this lion lives in an African reserve. Here, veterinarians can monitor her progress closely by using new technologies that give us unprecedented insight into a big cat's pregnancy. Pioneering ultrasound techniques allow scientists a unique glimpse of life inside a lion's womb. These 4D images capture the early development of the embryos. A small head has formed, but no brain is visible yet. A dot shows the area where an eye starts to develop. Each embryo swings in a hammock-like structure with a unique design that scientists have not seen anywhere else in the animal kingdom. It may have evolved with a lioness's need to hunt. Bringing down big game is violent and dangerous. It's possible the hammock acts as a shock absorber for the developing fetus. "2D scans show another feature, a thick wave-like lining to the womb. It's 4 times thicker than in domestic cats. This too might help cushion the embryo from the violence of the hunt. 3 lion embryos, and 7 cat embryos are growing into hunters inside their mother's womb. Predators in the making. It's day 28. The digits on each of the cat's paws have begun to separate. 7 patches of cells on each foot will develop into soft pads that will serve as silencers when stalking. Between the pads, other cells will develop into the highest density of hair on a cat's and a lion's body. Their roots are supplied with a rich net of nerve endings that will make the paws extremely sensitive to touch, perfect for detecting the slightest vibrations of prey padding through the savanna or rustling in the undergrowth. The fetus's powerful senses are beginning to form, the secret of the cat family's success. One of the most powerful is their hearing. 30 muscles support the ears, compared to just 6 in humans. Like a sophisticated satellite dish, the muscles can rotate each ear 180 degrees to point it towards the source of the noise. Cats have 20,000 more fibers in the auditory nerve than humans. With such acutely sensitive ears, they can detect the footsteps of a mouse up to 30 feet away, and they can hear ultrasonic sounds up to 2 octaves higher than humans can, sounds like a rodent squeak. The cat's ear is responsible for more than just hearing. It controls another fascinating skill. When a cat perches on a roof, it's unlikely to fall. But if it does, it's almost certain to land on its feet. The inner ear, which is still developing in the womb, is the key to this amazing skill. Here, 3 vital structures called semicircular canals are forming. Unlike in humans, they're perfectly arranged in 3 dimensions to provide the brain with an accurate signal of the cat's position. As the cat falls, its head turns. The fluid in the canals moves and bends millions of tiny sensory hairs in the canal walls. They, in turn, send signals to the brain which tells specific muscles to adjust the body's orientation. Now, the cat's uniquely flexible body comes into play. Inside the embryo, the skeleton is forming. 247 bones. That's 41 more bones than in humans. Most of the additional bones are in the spine and tail, making the cat extremely supple. In addition, cats have only a rudimentary collarbone, and the embryo grows strong muscles connecting the breastbone to the shoulder, making it even more flexible. As the cat falls, its skeleton, muscles, and ear work in perfect harmony. The rest of the body follows, and the cat lands on its feet. At the same time the embryo's ear is forming, another sensory system is developing on the fetus's snout. Under the skin, a rich network of nerves is growing, and on the surface, tiny spots mark the beginnings of the cat's whiskers. The secret of a cat's spatial awareness is that whisker follicles are set 3 times deeper than other body hair in the skin. The complex of nerve endings around each whisker will make it extremely sensitive to touch. Whiskers grow outward to about the width of a cat's body, helping it assess whether it will fit through tight spaces. If the whiskers don't touch the edges of the opening, the cat knows its body is likely to fit through. There are also whiskers called carpal hairs, growing on the back of the forelegs of the developing cat. In adult life, they'll provide information about the cat's body position when it's stalking and catching its prey. Human fetuses sometimes grow these hairs, but they disappear before birth. "38 days after conception, the nerve and muscle systems of the developing cat are growing fast. Their movements are becoming more dynamic. "4D scans show the tiny fetuses practicing the skills they'll need once they're born. They stretch their legs, scratch with their paws, and appear to be chasing imaginary prey by running. Fighting for space in the womb, they punch, kick, and headbutt each other. But they also have to guard against damaging themselves. One body part that's uniquely vulnerable is the eye, the key to the cat's prowess as a hunter. For now, the fetus's eyelids are fused shut. Because its kidneys are already excreting urine into the amniotic fluid, which could damage the cornea, the eyes remain shut until after birth. When they finally open, the kitten's eyes are enormous in relation to their head. It's equivalent to humans having eyes the size of tennis balls. Cats and lions are partly nocturnal, and large eyes gather more light. They have excellent night vision. Both can see with only a sixth of the light humans require. But their big eyes only account for part of this. The real secret lies in a special layer of light-reflecting cells that develop at the back of the fetus's eye, behind the retina. This layer acts like a mirror, so that any light the retina failed to pick up is reflected back onto the receptor cells for a second pass. This almost doubles the amount of light cats and lions' eyes can detect, and also causes the glow we see when they are caught in a beam of light. In the cat's womb, her 7 fetuses are growing fast. For the developing lions, life is far less crowded, with only 3 of them. Lions have smaller litters because food is often scarce, so there's more chance of keeping them all alive. The lion fetuses are now just over 1/3 of their way through their time in the womb. The cats are 3/4 of the way along. At this stage, both animals display similar sets of features, although the cats are clearly more advanced. Over the next 13 days, all the characteristics that distinguish cats and lions as different will have to emerge, because in only 13 days, the kittens will leave the safety of the womb. It's day 50. The physical differences in the lion and the cat are now obvious. Determined by their genes, these differences allow scientists to investigate how long ago their evolutionary paths diverged. Their common ancestor is unknown, but in genetic studies, biologists have calculated that all members of the cat family originated from an individual that lived in Asia 10 million years ago. From this ancient forebear, cats and lions branched out. They evolved and adapted to their particular environments. "52 days into its development, the cat fetus has begun to perform behaviors it will need throughout its life. The mouth opens and the chest inflates, an early simulation of breathing. For the moment, all its oxygen comes from the placenta. When it opens its mouth, its lungs fill with amniotic fluid. It starts to hiccup, just like human fetuses do. It's a sign that its reflexes are developing well. Scientists have observed cat fetuses wiping their paws across their mouths, possibly anticipating the cleaning behavior they will use after birth. Cats spend nearly 1/6 of their lives cleaning themselves. They use their tongue like a comb to remove all traces of scent and blood, which could alert their prey as they sneak up on them. Smell is a crucial sense not just for the hunted, but for hunters too. About 200 million tiny hairs are forming in the fetus's nasal cavity, each primed to send different signals to the brain depending on the scent molecules it encounters. The receptors stretch over an area of 20 centimeters, 10 times larger than in humans. It gives the cat a sense of smell 30 times better. But cats and lions also rely on a second scent organ. This gaping behavior is common in both cats and lions. The male draws air slowly through the mouth across two fluid-filled sacs in the palate to detect whether a female is sexually available. They are for sensing pheromones. In the embryo, this specialized scent organ develops in the roof of the mouth. Its sole job is to send signals about pheromones to the brain. 3/4 of the way through the fetus's development, an unusual feature is growing. On the tongue, tiny spikes are visible. All cats have them, but they're especially important in the lion. They'll help scrape the flesh off the bones of its prey. 60 days after conception, the cats are 3 days away from birth. The lion fetuses are only halfway through their development, but they're already bigger than the kittens. This 4D image shows that the lion fetus is also much more muscular than the kitten. It's developing features that will give it the strength and power it will need to bring down prey more than 5 times its own weight. But the most distinctive feature in the lion's fearsome arsenal of weapons is its roar. These territorial calls can be heard up to 5 miles away. But oddly enough, lions and other big cats are physically incapable of purring, whereas domestic and other small cats purr but can't roar. The reason lies in the development of a series of small bones that connect the root of the tongue to the larynx or voice box. This bone gives humans the power of speech. It also gives lions their roar. In the lion, the bones have an elastic part, allowing the larynx to drop further down. When it roars, the air has a longer cavity to vibrate in and produces a rich, deep sound. In cats, the hyoid apparatus is completely hard. When the cat breathes in and out, the bones vibrate rapidly, and the vocal cords generate the percussive drum roll of a purr. The purr creates a noise, but it also gives rise to a feeling. This feeling releases endorphins in the cat's brain. These are morphine-like hormones that help to soothe and relax. That's why they purr, not just when they're happy or tired, but also when they're scared. It's like a personal security blanket to combat stress. Endorphins also have a pain-relieving effect and will soon play a valuable role when the cat goes into labor. After 63 days of changes in the womb, the cat fetuses are finally nearing the end of their journey. Over the course of her pregnancy, the mother cat has gained about 1/4 of her body weight. Her 7 fetuses are nearly 5 inches long. Just hours ahead of them lies the trauma of birth and the shock of life beyond. The lion embryos still have 47 days to go, but they're growing fast and developing the characteristics they'll need to thrive on the savanna. The fur is growing into a tawny coat which will help camouflage them. Their legs are already powerful and the paws strikingly large. When this lion is fully grown, its paw will be nearly 10 inches across. A single blow to another animal will pack enough power to rupture internal organs and break bones. But the real danger is not the blow itself, it's the claws. They're already well defined. Each one will be longer than a human finger and sharp enough to grip the largest prey and tear through its flesh. To help protect them, they can be retracted into sheaths of skin, a feature shared by most members of the cat family. Another lethal weapon is also developing. Hidden in the mouth are the buds that will eventually form its teeth. As with humans, cats and lions have 2 sets of teeth. In adult life, they will be the cat's and the lion's most deadly weapons, the ones they use to kill. The canines can be as long as the blade of a switch knife and strong enough to break a brick in half. Yet for all their power, they're exquisitely sensitive. Pressure receptors develop beneath each canine so the lion can feel when to deliver the killing bite. But first, they have to catch their prey. Silently they stalk, and swiftly they pounce. Lions have evolved a specialized way of killing by strangling their prey to death. She locks her jaws around the animal's windpipe, and it suffocates in minutes. Lions and house cats usually stalk their prey and attack by surprise. But there's one member of the cat family that has evolved a different technique. Pure speed. The cheetah is the fastest sprinter on the planet. It can accelerate from 0 to 45 miles per hour in 2 seconds and reach speeds of nearly 70 miles per hour. Everything about the cheetah is built for speed, and as a result, it too has a unique journey in the womb. A glimpse of a cheetah during its fetal development reveals the origins of its extraordinary abilities. Compared to the lion or cat fetus, it has much longer legs and a longer spine. It's an essential adaptation. The flexible spine of an adult cheetah curves up and down as it runs, lengthening its stride. They can cover more than 20 feet with each stride, almost 3 times that of an Olympic sprinter. There are other differences too. The cheetah fetus has large nostrils, large lungs, and a large heart. Without them, it couldn't pump enough oxygen round its body to reach such astonishing speeds. Even the tail of this growing fetus is longer than the lion's. In adult life, this will stabilize its body during sudden turns. As with lions and cats, the cheetah's time in the womb builds a creature superbly adapted to its own unique way of life. For the cat fetuses, their time in the womb is now over. They're seconds away from entering the world. They started as single-celled embryos, and now, after 63 days in the womb, they're perfectly formed and ready for life on their own. The mother's body temperature drops from 100.4 to 98.6 degrees. She appears unsettled, searching for a warm and secluded place to deliver. As her labor progresses, levels of the hormone oxytocin increase in her blood, causing the muscles that circle the womb to tighten. Forceful contractions drive the kitten toward the pelvic opening. This cat is about to become a mother. Head first, a new life is emerging. Its mother licks it clean, stimulating it to breathe. Its first breath after 63 days in the womb. Half an hour after the first kitten, the next is ready to arrive. But this one is breech. A third of all cats are born tail first. All breech births are potentially lethal, but amazingly, only 7% of kittens are stillborn. Instinctively, the mother eats the placenta. which contains high levels of oxytocin. As this powerful hormone surges through the mother's blood, it helps her produce milk. But its effects are more than just physical. It has a strong psychological impact. In all mammals, oxytocin stimulates feelings of trust and affection. And it helps the mother bond with her offspring. Without the extra dose, she might reject them. A newborn kitten weighs only 3.5 ounces. That's just 3% of the mother's weight. But within a week, its body mass will double. Because they are blind, kittens use smell to find the mother's nipples. And the same kitten will often return to the same nipple. They'll use scent glands on their paws to lay claim to it. If a kitten is pushed away, it quickly recovers its chosen teat. Blind and deaf during these first few days, the kittens are totally reliant on their mother, but that quickly changes. By the second week, its eyes begin to open. At about 3 weeks, its ears will stand up, and it will take wobbly steps. By 6 weeks, they chase, leap, and pounce. Tiny predators who can finally see and play. The 3 lion cubs are still safe in the womb, but they too are approaching term as their mother prepares to deliver. Males are often aggressive towards cubs, so the female leaves the pride in search of a secure and isolated space. She seeks the safety of a man-made den. Carefully positioned infrared cameras can capture rare footage of the birth. At first, she's curious. But as labor sets in, she settles down. Her contractions become more regular. Her fetuses are now positioned head first. Slowly, the first cub emerges. With the next contraction, the mother stands. At last, her cub is born, still attached by its umbilical cord. Half an hour later, a second cub emerges. And finally, the third. The full, healthy litter begins to nurse. While young, even lions are vulnerable, so they must develop fast. At just 3 days, they can see well enough to find shady spots to hide in. They react to threatening sounds from the moment they're born, unlike kittens who can't hear for 12 days. After 6 weeks, the lion cubs are big enough to return to the pride. House cats are solitary, but lions raise their young communally. The cubs quickly learn the skills of life in a social group. For the cubs, it's been a remarkable journey, from this to this. The kittens have followed a similar path, but to a profoundly different end. Their time in the womb has uniquely shaped both animals. From the extraordinary shock absorption system that shields lion fetuses during the hunt, to the canals in a cat's inner ear that enable them to land on their feet. The cat family, joined by predation, separated by size and skills. One built for the complexity of a human home, the other for the challenges of the open savanna. Every whisker, every feature, every joint and limb sculpted by the world we call the womb.